This is Nessa Roche. I'm a K-State student teacher, and today I wanted to be talking about the learner development. And I'm going to start with, as the teacher in a classroom, I needed to be able to design, adapt, and deliver instruction to each of my students in a diverse learning strengths of their own and be able to keep their individuality within the lesson and need to create opportunities for students to demonstrate their learning in different ways. I was placed in an IB or international bachelorette school, and it was a very unique experience where the students were from all over the world and they had different levels of needs within the classroom. I had to ensure that the content was approachable for all levels and that they had a variety of resources for my students to include skeletal notes, guided notes, chunking to help pace and separate content within chunks so that way it's easier for them to distinguish, interpret, and correlate the information with prior knowledge. This allowed me to ensure that the content was not only approachable for them, but they were able to receive the content and be able to be on the same level as their peers. And I had to use this as a way to explain concepts that took on questions within my classroom. This is a great way for me to individually assess my ESL and ELL kiddos and see where they are as far as where their prior knowledge was. This gave me an opportunity to not only take into the consideration that I may need to slow down or pace or chunk for them, but it allowed me to use those resources as a way to guide and tailor my students regardless of their needs, whether they be low, high, average, or ESL, SPED. It allowed me to take one accessibility or accommodation and be able to meet the needs of multiple students within the classroom. Even though most of them probably didn't need it, it benefited a lot of the kids. I've talked very fast, so for me, chunking and slowing down the pace for them was a really receptive response from the students. Um, I also needed to design an instruction that built on the learner's prior knowledge and experiences, allowing the learners to accelerate as they demonstrate their understanding, which is challenging because they come from very diverse areas of the world. Some in Colorado Springs, some from Afghanistan, some from Iraq, some from China, some from Venezuela. So we had a diverse amount of students that required different needs, whether it be reading, writing, or articulation. And so my content needed to be very approachable on multiple levels. And for me, the best way to get a baseline was to do the pre and post lesson assessments and to look at their journals to see what their notes look like and how I can better tailor these students' learning within the classroom without making too many changes that were individual to them so that they did not feel ostracized or pinpointed as a person that needed help. Which in the middle school classroom, that emotional stress is very high, and if they feel like they're being a bother, it really distracts from their learning. This allowed me to bring in multiple perspectives and discuss content, including the attention to learners' personal family life, their cultures, their hobbies, their community experiences, and this allowed me to build lessons drawn on their experience and maybe use some of their life experience as examples of the earth and how it moves and what their land features look like in other places. And bring that in so that they felt very included within the discussions without having to contribute information on the actual lesson. They were contributing in ways that were relatable to their own personal lives. Um, Lastly, I needed to be very patient with my English learners within the classroom and be able to use my tools such as their ESL coordinators, interpreters, and use their 504s to be able to gauge their level of understanding of the content and be able to give me resources to help maybe guide some of my lessons that would include some of those things that would help them understand the content a little bit better, to allow them to use their devices for translation during my lesson or to record me so that they can watch it back and make it into their own language, which was really awesome. Um, I did this by getting to know my students individually. I took the time to really understand their needs and follow up with them when I saw something that maybe wasn't on the level of their peers. I always tried to take them aside and demonstrate with them either with pictures or graphics and be able to allow them to get a better understanding or deeper understanding of the content without feeling like they're being pinpointed within the classroom or that they're being in trouble because they do not understand. Um, Lastly, I learned that the best way to incorporate all learners is to have demonstrations from the teachers, be out there, be accountable, be engaged, and to ask questions and not be afraid to guide those questions lovingly and into the concepts that you want them to understand, and be accountable to changing your perspective on how they are seeing how you are teaching, and then being able to change that on the spot. And I used graphic um, pictures and wrote on the board and acted out in front of them. For example, normal fault and reverse faults. And that really helped a lot of my students, not only the ones that identified in 504 IEPs or ESLs. And lastly, I learned that hands-on demonstrations, hands-on labs, and getting them physically around the room and group partners, and having that social and emotional aspect is really beneficial for most of every student, no matter what their differences are within the classroom. Thank you for your time. Have a great day.